Well, welcome back into the 5 Sports Show, everybody. Cam Murray, joined by Zach Anderson. 48-14 loss to the Utah Utes in the second Big 12 game of the 2025 season. And honestly, a lot of the same things we saw against Kansas the previous week.
Yeah, a lot of the same shortcomings.
Team having a hard time stopping the offense, the defense, I should say, having a hard time stopping the opponent's offense to begin the game, letting the team start off really early, really early, and Utah's strength on offense continued through the second half, and it was just not a great day from West Virginia's defense. We can talk about their offense as well all we want, but they forced 0 punts for Utah. Utah had 0 punts in this game, and that, Utah was going wherever they wanted with the ball in the first half, much the second half as well. But let's just start off with who we saw at the quarterback position for West Virginia tonight. Obviously, a big story with Nico Marchiol still dealing with that mid-foot injury. We're not too sure if he's here in Colorado. We didn't know
we don't know anything else about him, and Coach Rodriguez did not talk about him in the press conference after the game as well. So
that's to be expected, and it's a tough situation for him. But what we saw from Jalen Henderson was kind of what we've have seen from him in the games he's played in this season. Passing-wise, not the strength of his game. Running, very good at running the football, but obviously you can't have one thing without the other. You can't run the ball.
You gotta be balanced.
You gotta have to be balanced. And when it comes to their offense, it seems like Cam Vaughn, which we've all seen, I'm sure all the fans know, he's the X factor. He's the guy, you get the ball in his hands, good things will happen. And when the ball's not in his hands early, West Virginia struggles. And of course, without their running backs today, the whole offense was just really having a slow start.
Yeah, the offense that you said it there has had a slow start. Head coach Rich Rodriguez, he played 4 quarterbacks in this game. I know that's kind of surprising, but we expected, the depth chart, he put or like he has all season. So you expected all those guys to come in, especially once Jalen struggled. So Henderson played, Scotty Fox played, Max Brown saw the field. But I think the headliner, something maybe positive you can take away. Of course, I'm a positive pointed person, so trying to take something positive away from this game for West Virginia, that's Khalil Wilkins. The freshman came in, he led WVU's offense, so there are only 2 touchdowns in this game. So something to look forward to with him. Made a couple nice throws, had a touchdown pass to Cam Vaughn, of course. I think Vaughn did a lot of the work there, but good touchdown there for them. So Cam, there's not a lot good to take away. That's the bottom line here, because if you watch the post-game press conference, anything we posted on social media about the post-game press conference with Coach Rodriguez, he was short and he was frustrated. You could tell the vibes were down. You go from such a high with the backyard brawl win, then you have 2 losses. You open your Big 12 slate, winless.
Yeah,
it's a tough start to the season for West Virginia, no doubt. And his mindset was just, we have to regroup. We have to, see what we have. He wasn't using injuries or, stuff like that as an excuse, but he definitely mentioned it as something that they have to battle against and something that they're going to have to overcome. So there's a lot to overcome, the offense. And one thing I want to mention about the defense, Cam, real quick, too, is because the defense played really well to start the year. We both agree on that.
Starting the year,
Starting the year against RMU, Ohio, even though they lost against Ohio, against Pitt, even the defense was pretty decent. These last 2 games, once the offense isn't there, the defense eventually is going to crack. I think that's just, a conception with football that's going to happen. Right. So the defense finally is starting to show its cracks. I think that's something that's going to have to be addressed quickly. Coach Rodriguez said he thinks Coach Zach Alley, defensive coordinator, will take care of that. Yeah,
and I think he will too. It's when you talk about explosive plays, which can really just kind of change the game, especially earlier in the game. Utah had a lot of explosive plays, a lot of plays that should have been, first guy to miss tackles for West Virginia, letting Utah just kind of get the ball downfield. So in every single possession Utah had in the first half, they scored. They scored. They didn't punt. They didn't kick a field goal. It was straight up go down and
4
score.
touchdowns. It was 28-0 at half.
And for the fans, whether you're watching at home or whether you were here in attendance or maybe in the parking lot tailgates, when there was 14 minutes to go in the fourth quarter, we both kind of said it. There was way more, and obviously, the away section is over there.
Yeah,
it's going to be more red. But in terms of the whole stadium, there was more red than gold and blue in my when I looked around the whole bowl, the student section, and they're not going to just stay if their team's not winning. I'm a fan too. I'll just name Patriots. Patriots are down 35-0 in the fourth quarter. Well, me and my dad are probably not watching that game any longer.
Yeah.
So I can understand the frustration for many of the fans out there who expected, and this is kind of what we go back to, Zach. when everyone talks about Rich Rod's back,
Yeah.
they have those visions of 2006, 7, and all those years that were so good for West Virginia, and to have these kind of disappointing outcomes as a fan, how did you say the team has to regroup? As a fan, how do you regroup after this loss? You just took back-to-back, not blowout, but large deficit losses against two Big 12 opponents.
A lot of fans, and please leave comments on our YouTube, on all of our platforms where this show will be, because we want to hear your thoughts, because some fans might tune off the team. They might be like, I'm not tuning into a game for the rest of the season. I would completely understand that. I mean, you kind of give up on a team early, especially when the stakes are so much higher. I think when you mentioned about Rich Rodriguez and his previous tenure at West Virginia, the stakes are now higher coming back here because he's going to need to win. That's the bottom line. West Virginia has to win under Rich Rodriguez, of course. You want to win, but the stakes are that West Virginia needs to win to make this hire make sense. And right now, it hasn't happened. I mean, 2-3 start to the year. You do beat Pitt, which is, of course, the big game of the year. You get that done. Rich Rodriguez did that. Check. But you have to win and contend for the Big 12 Conference for this hire to make sense. So the stakes for Coach Rodriguez are so much higher than I think it would be for any other normal first-year head coach, Cam.
And I totally agree with what you just said. And I think looking at the whole Big 12, a lot of fans are saying that, what's the measuring stick? Me and Axon talked about last week's pod. Like, what's the measuring stick team in this conference that if West Virginia loses to or beats, like, everyone, I think UCF is probably the team on their schedule this season, which is like...
That's the team that's most comparable to West Virginia, I
If
feel
they
like,
lose that game, if they lose that game by a touchdown or by 10 points or 14, we're going to have conversations about West Virginia might have like the weakest roster in all of the Big 12. If they go out there and they beat UCF, we can say at least they took down a team they're comparable with. When you look at Utah and Kansas, I mean, these are two teams that were highly in the odds to win the Big 12 Conference. In Utah,
throw BYU in there next week. BYU next week.
I mean, their schedule is just tough, and with no back-to-back home games, we kind of alluded to that in the beginning of the schedule. Like, no back-to-back home games this season is tough, especially against a tough Big 12. I just feel like everyone in the Big 12 over the last year has at least gotten better or stayed the same. You can look across the board in the Big 12. There are teams like TCU, Arizona State that kind of remain kind of on the top. But then you have these teams like Utah, who people were counting them out last year, who are back in the conversations.
You could argue that teams like TCU, sorry to interrupt you there, but I mean, you could argue that teams like TCU have gotten better.
Oh, yeah.
And then you look at Arizona State, they won the conference last year. They're probably about the same, maybe a little worse, a little down, but then you have teams like Oklahoma State, who they just let go of their head coach, longtime head coach Mike Gundy. So I feel like, to your point, the Big 12 is so top to bottom, really, really a great conference.
Yeah.
Really with a lot of solid teams, and that doesn't bode well for West Virginia because they're not having a good start.
And I think Brett Yormark, in the Big 12 Media Day, he said the parity in this conference is better than any conference in the country. And I would just think that West Virginia, in a big way, has to kind of look at themselves, and even fans too, because a fan is short for fanatic. Obviously, you want your team to win. You expect your team to win every week. But when you look at it realistically and roster versus roster, who do we have? Who are injuries? Who are here? I mean, the offensive line had a lot of injuries coming into this game.
Yeah, Landon Livingston, he's usually a starter. He was out tonight.
So when you look at roster by roster, I think people are going to have to really take a hard look at where West Virginia ranks among the Big 12 rosters. They clearly don't have a better roster than Utah or Kansas right now. And BYU, I don't think they do as well. TCU, I don't think they do as well. UCF, Arizona State, there's NFL guys on many of these teams. And I don't think West Virginia has. They have a guy, Cam Vaughn, who is the X factor on offense. But when you get the ball to him, how many times did he get? 3 times? 3 catches in this game?
Yeah, he had 3 catches for 62 yards and a touchdown in this game.
When you target your best offensive player 3 times, and I know this team likes to be a running team. They like to
run the ball
yards.
first.
They love that. But, I mean, if it's just not working out right now, and maybe it works out, maybe they can figure some things out, but as of right now, the way they're playing offensively, it worked against Robert Morris. It worked to an extent against Pitt. The very emotional game, but it's just not going to work against these really good Big 12 teams.
And you're right. But, I mean, in the second half of this game, WVU did end up with just over 190 rushing yards. So, obviously, a lot of that came in the second half whenever they scored those 2 touchdowns. In the first half, they were held to only 90 total yards. Not impressive showing in the first half. Second half, Of course, some backups maybe coming in, but West Virginia showed some life, at least on the ground game, and that's their focus. Like you said, they want to establish the ground game first, but the passing game, was not there. Like I said, Khalil Wilkins was the best guy you saw, and he only completed 3 passes, 3 for 6 for him, 63 yards and a touchdown. Jalen Henderson, 3 for 7, only 22 yards passing.
Yeah,
So less than 100 yards passing, actually less than 90 yards passing for West Virginia tonight. You got to have balance on both sides of the ball, and you mentioned that too.
And, we go from here. Plenty of injuries to keep an eye on. Nico Markyall, Jamori Robinson, guys who didn't get in the game as well. And honestly, some guys that were playing out here are Khalil Wilkins, Jalen Henderson. Is that the new quarterback battle? Is that the new what we're going to think? Who's starting next week?
I think I agree with you.
I mean, that is kind of...
I think that's the battle.
Because right now it's like we're all wondering, okay, what's this quarterback or? I mean, if I were to put money on it, I'd bet that Rich Rodriguez is not going to answer any questions about who's starting against BYU on Tuesday. But, it's all good fodder for us to think about.
And it'll hinge on the fact of what happens to Nico Marco with his foot injury.
Right.
Because we said earlier in the season that Nico had established himself as a starter, but now that he's hurt, I think that opens the door back up. I think you alluded to it too, because I think Khalil Wilkins has to have a shot to be the starter next week. He has to have a shot. Jalen Henderson, of course, he started this game tonight. He has to have a shot too.
From what I saw in camp, going back to August, I always thought Khalil Wilkins he should have been a guy propped up in that position.
Yeah.
Obviously, Max Brown, Scotty Fox. Scotty Fox looked great in some games.
Yeah,
but I think Khalil Wilkins could be a guy that Rich Rodriguez leans on to finish the season off if things don't go well with Nico Markyall's injury and if Jalen Henderson continues to struggle with the passing game a little bit.
Each quarterback had moments where this season, honestly, you could say all 5 quarterbacks have had moments this season where they've flashed and moments where they've struggled. So, Coach Rodriguez, he's been very indifferent about the quarterback situation and very open to change, and I think that's going to continue. Maybe it's not a recipe for success. It probably isn't, because you want to have a star guy at quarterback. You want to have a stud there, but that'll be a storyline. It'll continue to be a storyline, especially after tonight. Yeah. So here from Milan Puskar Stadium, 48-14 loss, second Big 12 loss of the season, 0-2 in the Big 12 to start the year. And West Virginia now is 2-3 on the season, heading out to BYU next Friday night. That's going to be all for us on this 5 Sports show from Mountaineer Field, and we'll see you in the next one.